Good, thanks. Didn't know that.
Oh, yes. I like to surprise everybody once in a gun, right? Chuck's plan.
Good, thanks. I know, like I said, nobody knows. I will, Terry. I will.
You like how he plans that? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Are you sure? Oh, thank you. Oh, I should have had enough plastic. Thank you.
I figure I can't yell at my students for using plastic all the time and then like be on television like using plastic. So. Hi.
Thank you. Oh, you're gonna do all that first. Okay. 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 I'll have that ready.
You guys all set? All set? Good evening. Today is Thursday, February 6th, 2025. I'd like to call this meeting of the Auburn City Council to order. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Counselor Kent. Here. Counselor Overstreet Wilson is excused this evening. Counselor Cuddy.
Here.
Counselor Clarko.
Here.
Mayor Giannettino.
Here, please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silent prayer or reflection. Thank you. Please be seated. Public announcements?
None.
All right, very good. Moving on, we have two ceremonial proclamations this evening. The first is Black History Month.
Whereas the Black experience throughout history is an enduring foundation upon which the Black community is built and stands, and the struggle and challenges overcome by African Americans throughout the centuries are inspiring to all Americans and reminders of the principles we share as a society. And whereas Black History Week was initiated in February 1926, and for many years the second week of February, chosen as to coincide with the birthdays of Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln, was celebrated by African Americans in the United States. And whereas in 1976, as part of the nation's bicentennial Black History Week, was expanded and became established as Black History Month, and is now celebrated all over North America. And whereas the theme for 2025, African Americans in Labor, intends to encourage broad reflections on intersections between Black people's work and their workplaces in all their iterations and key moments, themes, and events in Black history and culture across time and space throughout the U.S., Africa, and the diaspora. Like religion, social justice movements, and education studying African Americans, labor struggles are important organizing foci for interpretations and reinterpretations of Black past, present, and future. This theme sets out to highlight and celebrate the potent impact of this work. And whereas, as citizens' workforce, African Americans continue to chart new paths toward economic stability, personal growth, and racial uplift. From enslaved workers in the 19th century to agricultural, industrial, and professional workers in the 20th and 21st centuries, Black men and women have always been vital to transforming and tooling America. During Black History Month, let us celebrate Black people's often invisible labor of all kinds across time, industry, and community. And whereas we take this opportunity to study the accomplishments of all African Americans throughout history, we reflect the role of the Black community in our nation's past, present, and future. To enrich our understanding of the history of Black America is to broaden our understanding of the nation's history, and during Black History Month, with appreciation for their contributions to all areas of the American life and culture. Now, therefore, I, James N. Giannettino, Jr., Mayor, hereby proclaim February 2025 as the 49th year of Black History Month in the city of Auburn, and urge all citizens to celebrate our diverse heritage and culture and continue our efforts to create a world that is more just, peaceful, and prosperous for us all.
Thank you. With us this evening, we have Miss Anna Wilson and Miss Brittany Lane from the National Park Service. Would you both meet me at the railing, please?
I should know by now. No, thank you so much. We are really honored to be able to accept this proclamation on behalf of Harriet Tubman National Historical Park. And we are very excited to continue this year in opening to the public and sharing Harriet Tubman's legacy here in Auburn, New York, and also sharing the legacy of the descendant community in Auburn as well. And so we are very excited and so happy to be here in Auburn, and we look forward to having the rest of the year to celebrate and to share Black history, because Black history is not just a month, a year, it is all year round. So thank you.
Thank you both for being here this evening, and thank you for the work you're doing at the National Park Service here in town. You all have been great partners, and we appreciate that. The next proclamation is to recognize Zonta Club's 100th anniversary.
Whereas the first Zonta Club was formed in Buffalo, New York in 1919 by a group of businesswomen under the leadership of Marion DeForest, and whereas the Zonta Club of Auburn was chartered in 1925 by some of the county's most forward-thinking women, and whereas the Zonta Club of Auburn has and continues to be a club of fellowship, leadership, fun, and service to others, and whereas the Zonta Club of Auburn mirrors the long and illustrious history of Zonta International by its local and international service dedicated to improving and empowering women and girls, and whereas the Zonta Club of Auburn has helped numerous young students achieve their career aspirations through its many scholarships, awards, and whereas the Zonta Club of Auburn has since its inception bestowed thousands of dollars in grant funding to numerous local organizations, local women-owned businesses, and efforts, all aimed at assisting women and girls. And whereas one of the Zonta Club of Auburn's core values and visions is to eradicate violence both locally and globally. And whereas January 19th, 2025 marks the Zonta Clubs of Auburn's 100th anniversary. And whereas the Zonta International envisions a world in which Women's rights are recognized as human rights, and every woman is able to achieve her full potential. And whereas in such a world, women have access to all resources and are represented in decision-making positions on an equal basis with men, in such a world, no woman lives in fear of violence. Be it therefore proclaimed, I, James N. Giannettino, Jr., Mayor of the City of Auburn, New York, on behalf of the City Council and the citizens of Auburn, recognize January 19th, 2025 as celebration of the 100th anniversary of the Zonta Club of Auburn.
Thank you. With us this evening, we have several representatives from Zonta Club. Would you like to meet me, Brantley?
Okay, here we go. I have a loud voice to begin with, but my members are telling me to put the mic by my voice, so we'll see. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mayor Giannettino, City Council members, City Manager Jennifer Haynes, and for honoring the Zonta Club of Auburn this evening, and to Rhonda Miller for her assistance. I'd also like to thank the Zonta Club of Auburn's members. Some of these members are here with us this evening: Terry Mahoney, Kathy Barnard, Carol McNeil, Ann Payne, Bonnie Blair, Julie LaShawn, and Mary Ellen Muchler. Our club is a success because of them. Their hard work and dedication has a positive and direct impact on the lives of women and girls here in Cayuga County and globally. I'm very proud to be part of this amazing group of women. They're making a difference, and they're building a better world for women and girls. Thank you again for honoring us, and to the members for making our club the success that it is. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you all for taking the time to be here this evening and for all the good work you do in our community. We appreciate it. Moving on to the public to be heard.
At this time, we will open the public to be heard portion of the council meeting. Residents are asked to state their name and address for the record. Please keep your remarks to 3 minutes or less, and please observe commonly accepted rules of courtesy and decorum.
Thank you. Is there anybody wishing to be heard this evening? Yes, either podium. Yeah, either one.
Hello. So I might have fallen prey to
Excuse me,
some bad information. I seen something
1
on.
second. I need you to state your name and
Oh,
address, please.
Claude Bonadia, 11 Francis Street.
Thank you.
So I seen this thing on Facebook where somebody's saying, I don't think a homeless shelter should be built in my neighborhood. And I don't know if that's actually what you guys are discussing tonight or not. I'm a little confused reading the agenda and looking at the website. But the fact is that homelessness is a real problem in this community. And I hear in this town we talk a lot about equal rights, but the fact is that homelessness is not a protected class. But, you know, people who are homeless are disproportionately already, you know, people who are already marginalized, even though it could happen to any of us. And I hear a lot of talk about a housing shortage, but I can walk down any road in this town and see all sorts of empty houses. And I hear a lot of talk about, you know, drug addiction and mental health problems, but having housing insecurity only exacerbates these things. And I see us throwing a lot of money at police and hostile architecture, and it's only making the town more uninhabitable for all of us. And I think we need to look for new, you know, any solution, all the solutions. And, you know, a homeless shelter, I don't think it's sufficient to address the problem, but it is necessary. Thank you for your time. Have a great night.
Thank you. Is there anybody else wishing to be heard this evening? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Pam O'Cusick, and I live at 120 Chapman Avenue Street here in Auburn. And I see that on the agenda tonight is the land sale resolutions 13A, B, C, D. Sale of the properties for properties at 19 through 21 on Venice Street, properties at 17 through 19 on Derby Street, properties at 41 Lansing Street, and properties at 266 Seymour Street. So I went on today and I kind of looked at these listed properties, and I've seemed to lost my one paper stating who's interested in buying these properties, because these properties were seized for back taxes. And I found it interesting that 3 of these properties, the person interested in buying these properties is the gentleman that is looking to buy the State Street property that is right now in question about being torn down and a homeless shelter being put there in its place. And my question is that, yeah, we have a problem here with homeless people and them needing shelters and they needing homes and things like that. But my question is that I keep seeing this particular gentleman's name coming up over and over and over again of him buying up property everywhere in Auburn. And him getting a cut rate on homes everywhere here in Auburn. So I guess my question is, he's going to put a homeless shelter on State Street. He's going to put one on Grand Avenue. Is he going to turn these properties also into low-income housing? Or what's he going to do with these properties? Because it says that he's going to renovate these, and then he's going to turn these properties around. So what are these properties going to become? So that's my question I pose to you guys. Because every time I turn around, I just keep seeing him buying more and more properties in Auburn. Are we just going to turn all of our properties that are available to him? That's my question I pose. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. And for a point of clarification, we're not allowed to engage, but for point of clarification, there's not a homeless shelter being built on State Street. That is a false statement. It's transitional housing. So I just wanted to clear that up for the record. Is there anybody else wishing to be heard this evening? Close the public to be heard. We do have a public hearing for community development block grant funding. I'm going to open that at this time. Anybody from the public is welcome to speak on that topic. The same rules apply as public to be heard, and it is only on that topic. So at this time, is there anybody wishing to make any comments related to the CDBG action plan? All right, hearing none, we will close the public hearing for that. And we'll move on to the approval of the meeting minutes from January 23rd, 2025. Do we have a sponsor? Councilor Kent, seconded by Councilor Clarko. Any questions, discussions, corrections? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Counselor Kent?
Yes.
Counselor Cuddy?
Yes.
Counselor Clarko?
Aye.
Mayor Giannettino?
Aye.
Carried.
City Manager's report. Mr. Dygert.
Thank you, Mayor. We are still accepting applications for data analyst position for the Auburn Police Department. The position is provisional and no test date has yet been set by New York State. City is currently accepting proposals under a request for qualifications for a firm to conduct an Owasco Lake sub-watershed stream corridor assessment. Those responses are due back to us by tomorrow, February 7th. We are also currently accepting responses to an RFQ for legal services related to energy investment tax credits Those responses are due back February 14th, next Friday. We are also accepting proposals for both dog control services as well as either collectively or separately kenneling services. Responses to either or both of those services are due back on February 12th. This week, the actual work began on the Hoops Park restoration project, so it's a bit of a mess down there. I'm not sure, we haven't received any irate phone calls about it. We're doing our best to keep that neat, and we'll do our best to communicate with folks in the community and the neighborhood down there, whether it be in person, through mailers, or at least on the website, keeping people up to date on what's going on. And again, we expect that project to go approximately 4 weeks. One other thing I wanted to touch on, we've been very fortunate over the last few years and had some relatively mild winters, which has been a great thing for our streets, along with our increased investment in the work of our engineering departments to take care of poor road conditions. But all things come to an end, and this winter's been pretty brutal already on our roads. We're starting to get some complaints about potholes. We're doing our best to keep up with those. I just wanted to let council know that our Public Works Department is dealing with those things in inclement weather, cold weather, wet weather. It's very difficult for them to actually solve the problem. Everything we do is just a temporary fix, and sometimes those temporary fixes are literally span just hours, not even days. That's how long some of these patches and repairs last in busy intersections. So I wanted you to be aware of that. But I also wanted to draw a little bit of attention to some of the tougher spots that we have, some of the tougher roads or streets. The arterial is in pretty rough shape in some spots. North Street has really been affected by this winter, and Lake Avenue has been significantly affected this winter. Just wanted to make sure that everyone's aware that those are state roads. We've talked a lot about the arterial. The arterial is in New York State's plan for a rebuild. It's delayed approximately 1 year. We'll see that work probably start in 2026. The North Street project has been discussed for years and was on New York State DOT's schedule or calendar, and in the last year or so has been removed from that. So our staff has been fighting to try to get that back on the calendar and going, and the same applies to Lake Avenue. So I want the council to know and the public to know that we're doing everything we can to keep the roads maintained. The state also has a responsibility in this as well, and we try to do our best not to throw local funds after state roadways to the extent that we can. There will be some spot repairs done, but not to the extent that those particular roadways require at this point in time. That's all I've got.
Very good. Any questions for Mr. Duggar? Reports from members of council? Councilor Kent?
Last week, the mayor and I attended the ribbon cutting for the new Cuyahoga County Workforce Development Center. It houses the Labor Department, the Work Center, Cuyahoga Cooperative Extension. Out on Grain Avenue, it was a cooperative extension for many, many years. I was very impressed with the building. They had great turnout, a lot of hope, great speeches. It was a great event. And the other day I presented to a youth leadership class at our junior high. And at one point, it was a wonderful experience. And I have to say, I sent a text to the teacher saying that I was so impressed with these young people in the class. They were attentive, they were interested, they were interesting. And I asked them at one point, well, what would you like to see happen in Auburn, or what do you what would you suggest as a change? Because we're trying to help them think of some projects. And one of them mentioned Lake Avenue. Could you do something about Lake Avenue? It's a little bumpy. They go, it's a very busy street. But we had great exchange. It was a lot of fun. So thank you. That's it.
Very good. Thank you. Anyone else? On the 28th, Mr. Dyer, myself, and Ms. Haynes attended the Rotary Club meeting at their invitation. They just interested in an update on what was going on in the city. It was actually kind of a nice dry run for the state of the city. That'll be in March. So I just want to acknowledge them for the invitation and the good work that they do in the community. Earlier this week, I was in Albany with the city clerk for the annual NICOM conference, New York Conference of Mayors. This is a session where they kind of dissect what's in the proposed budget from the governor. There is some okay news in there. AIM funding remains the same. In past years, they've tried to cut that, and we've had to fight to get it restored. The temporary bump that was included last year has been included again. So I think the lobbying effort now goes from taking that temporary line, which is significant for us, and moving it to the permanent line so that we don't have to fight to keep that in every year. And then really pushing the state to come up with an ongoing formula that funds us at the necessary levels, whether it's tied to inflation, whether it's a formula like they use for the school district. But I mean, I can tell you that the Auburn School District is in line to get a $3 million bump in aid this year. Ours is remaining flat. So it's just not sustainable. We made that case. Every other city is making that case, so that effort continues. The arterial maintenance money stays the same amount that we've received since 1987. Costs have certainly gone up since 1987. So we'll continue to fight for that. There is a bill being sponsored. We're going to encourage Senator May to co-sponsor that bill. Road money, there's good news there. That remains at the levels, all the programs. Obviously, we always want more road money, but the fact that it came in, we don't have to fight to get any cuts back. That's positive as well. But I'll say this, the overall budget has increased by $50 billion, which is insanity to me, especially when there's no increases for local government. And that's our money coming back to us through revenue sharing. So I don't know what's going on in Albany, but it just really isn't making sense to me. My advocacy will continue. As I've mentioned in the past, I'm meeting with other regional mayors. The complaints are all, and the asks are all the same, and I don't know why they're not listening to us. But that work will continue. I do want to acknowledge Senator May for taking the time to meet with us. One of the things we talked about was state routes that aren't being maintained by the state. On the way back, the city clerk and I were brainstorming about North Street, and I think we should make a concerted effort to reach out to places like Auburn Community Hospital, Nucor, Prison City, all these people that have invested heavily, and maybe get them the right letters to the state saying how it's impacting their day-to-day operations, because they're clearly not listening to us. So if it's okay with council, that's something that I'd like to pursue. Okay, very good. Land sale resolution number 10 of 2025, authorizing the sale of real property known as 19 to 21 Venice Street. Do we have a sponsor? Councilor Cuddy, second by Councilor Clarko.
Land sale resolution number 10 of 2025 by Councilor Cuddy, seconded by Councilor Clarko. Whereas on August 11th, 2023, the City of Auburn acquired title to the real property commonly known as 19 to 21 Venice Street by tax foreclosure. And whereas the property consists of a multifamily home which is located in a residential neighborhood, and whereas Housing Visions Consultants, Inc. has proposed a cash purchase offer and sale contract which is attached hereto and incorporated herein for the purchase of the property at a purchase price of $5,000. And whereas Housing Visions Consultants, Inc. has represented that they intend to renovate and restore the property in order to renovate and rent the property. And whereas the property is a surplus parcel and not needed for city purposes. Now therefore be it resolved that the City of Auburn does hereby approve the purchase offer and sale contract from Housing Visions Consultants, Inc., which is incorporated herein for the sale of 19 to 21 Venice Street for the sum of $5,000, subject to the terms and conditions set forth therein, and also subject to the following. 1, that the city provide only a quitclaim deed to the buyer at closing. 2, that the buyer be responsible for all title, survey, and closing costs necessary to close the transaction. 3, that the buyer be required to obtain any and all permits necessary to renovate the property within 30 days from the date of closing. and that all renovations and/or construction at the property be completed on or before December 31st, 2027. And 4, that the deed transferred to the buyer shall include a revisionary clause to provide that if the buyer fails to satisfy the conditions relating to the renovation of the property be completed on or before December 31st, 2027, then title and ownership of the property shall automatically and immediately revert back to the city. Be it further resolved that the mayor is authorized to sign the purchase offer and sale contract together with any and all documents in order to finalize the closing of the sale, and direct staff to record the sale proceeds into revenue account A992660, sale of real property.
Thank you. Ms. Haynes, could you come to the podium, please? For the public's knowledge, the way that the city used to handle foreclosed properties, they would go to auction. And the city had no control over who purchased these properties. Oftentimes it would be LLCs. You don't know who owns the LLCs. And over decades of that process occurring, it resulted in some of the neighborhood issues that we have now, because they were bad actors who did not maintain properties. They preyed on individuals, and it became a problem that was on our radar, and we were kind of scratching our heads how to fix it. And staff came to us with a proposal, and that was to take any foreclosed property and list them with a real estate agent. So it went out to RFP. Any real estate agent could apply. A real estate agent was chosen through the RFP process, and in my humble opinion, this process has been highly successful because we have control over who buys the properties. We put requirements that permits have to be pulled within 30 days, that the work has to be done within a year. We make them disclose to us what they're going to do with the property. The whole purpose of this is to get properties back on the tax rolls. So, can you explain how the process works when somebody wants to buy property from the city of Auburn?
Sure. Mayor, as you explained, one of the ways that we are selling property is through our real estate agent, which we had them go through a request for proposal process and a scoring. And so we have the real estate agency and agent Steve Byer who lists properties for us. When we look through our list of tax foreclosures, we contemplate each property to determine whether it would list well, whether it's a candidate for demolition, or whether it's a candidate for us to work with some of our local housing partners. You have 4 land sale resolutions on your agenda tonight. The last one of those, 266 Seymour Street, was listed with our realtor, and he brought an offer for us to contemplate for sale. That particular owner is going to renovate the house and resell it. So that's something that we've seen quite a bit with our listed properties. The other 3 properties were purchase offers from Housing Visions. They have been in our community for probably more than 20 years. One of their first projects that they did was on Westlake Avenue when we utilized a good amount of CDBG Community Development Block Grant funding, which you're going to hear a presentation about that, to completely revitalize that neighborhood on Westlake Avenue, Fort Street. They were a partner there, bought 3 properties, which they continue to own and rent in that neighborhood. They also were a partner on Orchard Street when we did that particular project. They built houses, did significant renovations to those houses. They continue to own and rent those houses on Orchard Street and some of those streets in that particular neighborhood. Housing Visions has obviously recently, over the last couple of years, worked through our processes. One of the proposals that they have talked through was the purchase of 197 State Street, which when we were here a few weeks ago talking about that land sale, we talked about how that project is going to be permanent supportive housing, which, as we know, is one of our solutions for homelessness, is to offer permanent housing with supports. So that project is going to offer that. In addition to that project, Housing Visions is interested in purchasing scattered site houses through our neighborhoods in order to provide opportunities for folks to have affordable housing in our neighborhoods. They plan to own and rent these houses as well. The first 3 resolutions on your agenda are in that vein. As far as the sale prices, we worked with Auburn Housing Authority recently on the sale of 20 Barber Street. That sale price was $5,000. We're trying to sort of keep a level playing field for our housing partners in working through those sale prices. The houses that they are buying have very significant code violations and life and safety issues to deal with, sometimes more so than the properties that we're listing. That's the reason that we take a little bit different approach with some of these. Our housing partners are willing to do that. They are preparing to submit grant applications for some of those renovations to take place. So that's a little bit of background on at least the 4 resolutions that you have here and some of the reasons that we take the approach that we do on different properties. But take a look at each one and try to decide to do what's best for the neighborhood.
Any questions for Ms. Haynes? I can tell you that in the 3 campaigns that I've participated in as a candidate, every time I've run, I've walked every neighborhood in the city. I've knocked on thousands of doors. And this is one of the neighborhoods that I've been in where they've pleaded with us to try and address what's going on there. And I believe this to be the start of us being able to address it, much like we were able to address it on Orchard Street. I say we as a city, I wasn't here at the time. I know that, Orchard Street and Orchard Ave is the only neighborhood association in the city. And I know that the person who runs that neighborhood association, who is very vocal and a proponent for her neighborhood, has been very happy overall with the work that's been done there and the way Housing Visions has carried themselves. So I think this is a good partnership, and I fully plan to support all 3 of these resolutions. With that, please call the roll.
Counselor Kent?
Yes.
Counselor Cuddy?
Yes.
Counselor Clarko?
Aye.
Mayor Giannettino?
Aye.
Carried.
Land sale resolution number 11 of 2025, authorizing the sale of real property known as 17 to 19 Derby Ave. Do we have a sponsor, please? Counselor Kent, seconded by Counselor Clarko.
Land sale resolution number 11 of 2025 by Counselor Kent, seconded by Counselor Clarko. Whereas on October 20th, 2022, the City of Auburn acquired title to the real property commonly known as 17 to 19 Derby Ave by tax foreclosure. And whereas the property consists of a multifamily home which is located in a residential neighborhood. And whereas Housing Visions Consultants, Inc. has proposed a cash purchase offer.
Hold on 1 second. Excuse me. Can you please be quiet during, thank you. Go ahead. It's okay, thank you.
Has proposed a cash purchase offer and sale contract which is attached hereto and incorporated herein for the purchase of the property at a purchase price of $5,000. And whereas Housing Visions Consultants, Inc. has represented that they intend to renovate and restore the property in order to renovate and rent the property. And whereas the property is a surplus parcel and not needed for city purposes. Now therefore be it resolved that the City of Auburn does hereby approve the purchase offer and sale contract from Housing Visions Consultants, Inc., which is incorporated herein for the sale of 17 to 19 Derby Ave for the sum of $5,000, subject to the terms and conditions set forth therein, and also subject to the following. 1, that the city provide only a quitclaim deed to the buyer at closing. 2, that the buyer be responsible for all title, survey, and closing costs necessary to close the transaction. 3, that the buyer be required to obtain any and all permits necessary to renovate the property within 30 days from the date of closing, and that all renovations and/or construction at the property be completed on or before December 31st, 2027. And 4, that the deed transferred to the buyer shall include a revisionary clause to provide that if the buyer fails to satisfy the conditions relating to the renovation of the property be completed on or before December 31st, 2027, then title and ownership of the property shall automatically and immediately revert back to the city. Be it further resolved that the mayor is authorized to sign the purchase offer and sale contract together with any and all documents in order to finalize the closing of the sale, and direct staff to record the sale proceeds into revenue account A992660, sale of real property.
Thank you. Any questions, discussion from council? Please call the roll.
Counselor Kent?
Yes.
Counselor Cuddy?
Yes.
Counselor Clarko?
Aye.
Mayor Giannettino?
Aye.
Carried.
Land sale resolution number 12 of 2025, authorizing the sale of real property known as 41 Lansing Street. Do we have a sponsor? Counselor Cuddy, second by Counselor Clerco.
Land sale resolution number 12 of 2025 by Counselor Cuddy, seconded by Counselor Clarko. Whereas on October 24th, 2024, the City of Auburn acquired title to the real property commonly known as 41 Lansing Street by tax foreclosure. And whereas the property consists of a single-family home which is located in residential neighborhood. And whereas Housing Visions Consultants, Inc. has proposed a cash purchase offer and sale contract which is intended and incorporated herein for the purpose of property at a purchase price of $5,000. And whereas Housing Visions Consultants, Inc. has represented that they intend to renovate and restore the property in order to rent the property. Whereas the property is a surplus parcel and not needed for city purposes. Now therefore be it resolved that the City of Auburn does hereby approve the purchase offer and sale contract from Housing Visions Consultants, Inc., which is incorporated herein for the sale of 41 Lansing Street for the sum of $5,000, subject to the terms and conditions set forth therein, and also subject to the following. 1, that the city provide only a quitclaim deed to the buyer at closing. 2, that the buyer be responsible for all title, survey, and closing costs necessary to close the transaction. 3, that the buyer be required to obtain any and all permits necessary to renovate the property within 30 days from the date of closing, and that all renovations and/or construction at the property be completed on or before December 31st, 2027. And 4, that the deed transferred to the buyer shall include a revisionary clause to provide that if the buyer fails to satisfy the conditions relating to the renovation of the property be completed on or before December 31st, 2027, then title and ownership of the property shall automatically and immediately revert back to the city. Be it further resolved that the mayor is authorized to sign the purchase, sale, offer, and sale contract together with any and all documents in order to finalize the closing of the sale and direct staff to record the sale proceeds into revenue account A992660, the sale of real property.
Any questions or discussion? Please call the roll.
Counselor Kent?
Yes.
Counselor Cuddy?
Yes.
Counselor Clarko?
Aye.
Mayor Giannettino?
Aye.
Carried.
Land sale resolution number 13 of 2025, authorizing the sale of real property known as 266 Seymour Street. Do we have a sponsor? Counselor Kent, second by Counselor Clerco.
Land sale resolution number 13 of 2025 by Counselor Kent, seconded by Counselor Clarko. Whereas on October 24th, 2024, the City of Auburn acquired title to the real property commonly known as 266 Seymour Street by tax foreclosure. And whereas the property consists of a single-family home, which is located in the residential neighborhood. And whereas on December 4th, 2024, the city listed the property for sale with the real estate agency as its real estate broker. And whereas Brandon Mallory has proposed a cash purchase offer and sale contract, which is attached hereto and incorporated herein for the purchase of the property at a purchase price of $40,000. And whereas Brandon Mallory has represented that he intends to renovate and restore the property in order to resell it. And whereas the property is a surplus parcel and not needed for city purposes. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Auburn that the purchase offer and the sale contract from Brandon Mallory, which is attached hereto and incorporated herein for the sale of 266 Seymour Street for the sum of $40,000 be approved, subject to the terms and conditions set forth therein, and also subject to the following. 1, that the city provide only a quitclaim deed to the buyer at closing. 2, that the buyer be responsible for all title, survey, and closing costs necessary to close the transaction. 3, that the buyer be required to obtain any and all permits necessary to renovate the property within 30 days from the date of closing, and that all renovations and/or construction at the property be completed within 1 year from the date of closing. And 4, that the deed transferred to the buyer shall include a revisionary clause to provide that if the buyer fails to satisfy the conditions relating to the renovation of the property within 1 year of closing, then the title and ownership of the property shall automatically and immediately revert back to the city. Be it further resolved that the mayor is authorized to sign the purchase offer and sale contract together with any and all documents in order to finalize the closing of the sale and direct staff to record the sale proceeds into revenue account A992660, sale of real property.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion? I do want to go on record and state that Mr. Mallory is a coworker of mine at MedEnt. I just want to be on the record for that. Please call the roll.
Counselor Kent?
Yes.
Counselor Cuddy?
Yes.
Counselor Clarko?
Aye.
Mayor Giannettino?
Aye.
Carried.
Appointment Resolution Number 14 of 2025, appointing a member of the Auburn Human Rights Commission. Do we have a sponsor? Counselor Clarko, second by Counselor Kent.
Appointment Resolution Number 14 of 2025 by Counselor Clarko, seconded by Counselor Kent. Whereas the City of Auburn has created the Auburn Human Rights Commission pursuant to the General Municipal Law of the State of New York, and whereas the City Council would like to appoint Simone Collender, who is a resident of the City of Auburn, and whereas the new member shall serve for a term of 3 years beginning immediately upon approval of this appointment resolution. Now therefore be it resolved that the following person is hereby appointed as a member of the Human Rights Commission for a term of 3 years, namely Simone Collender, and be it further resolved that said appointments are to become effective immediately upon approval of this appointment resolution.
Thank you. Ms. Collender came recommended from Reverend Wilson, who is the chair of the Human Rights Commission. I actually had an opportunity to meet with Ms. Collender. She was actually here this evening. She just left. She's a native of Auburn, moved away, came back. She's employed here in this community, and I think she'll be a good addition to the commission. Please call the roll.
Counselor Kent?
Yes.
Counselor Cuddy?
Yes.
Counselor Clarko?
Aye.
Mayor Giannettino?
Aye.
Carried.
This evening, we have a presentation on the CDBG 2025 through 2029 Consolidated Plan and the 2025-2026 Annual Action Plan. With us this evening, we have Ms. Jensen and Ms. Beebe from the Planning Department. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and members of Council. Thank you so much for hosting a public hearing tonight and also giving us the opportunity to present on the Community Development Block Grant 2025 to 2029 Consolidated Plan. I am Renee Jensen, and with me tonight is Tiffany Beebe from the Office of Planning and Economic Development. The Community Development Block Grant Program is a federal program. It's administered by HUD, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, and it is authorized under Title I of the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974. This program provides annual grants on a formula basis to states, cities, and counties to develop viable urban communities by providing decent housing, suitable living environments, and by expanding economic opportunities for low to moderate income persons. The city has received CDBG funding as an entitlement community since 1994. A requirement to receive this funding is to do a 5-year consolidated plan. And before you tonight is the draft 2025 to 2029 5-year consolidated plan. With that, we also have the 2025 to 2026 annual action plan. The presentation before you tonight is just a highlight of the consolidated plan, and it's very, very detailed. So anybody who's looking to read it in more detail, it is on our city website and also can be obtained via hard copy through our office. So if anybody's looking for that, they can reach out to us. The consolidated plan, it's really designed to help communities like the City of Auburn to assess our affordable housing and community development needs And it really ensures that funding is strategically allocated to address those needs. It is a community and data-driven process, and as I mentioned, it is required by HUD. So this plan provides a framework for the next 5 years, and within it, the priorities which will be undertaken. So as you can see here, we have the 5-year plan, but we then do annual action plans, which really provides a good summary and concise actions and activities, as well as funding that will be used to address goals within the 5 years plan. Tonight, we'll be looking at the 2025-26 annual action plan. As we develop both the consolidated plan and the action plans, we do keep in mind the community development program goals, and as I mentioned before, those are the development of decent and affordable housing, creating suitable living environments, and expanding economic opportunities. All and every activity that is funded with CDBG funds must meet one or more national objective, and that is benefiting low to moderate income persons, prevention or elimination of blighting influences or structures, or responding to an urgent need. And that we haven't seen that here in Auburn, but that's more like responding to Hurricane Katrina or an urgent need like that. So as I mentioned, the consolidated plan process is community and data driven. The process begins in the fall. Tiffany and I went out, we held a few community meetings. We held one at Booker T. Washington Center and then Seymour Library. We also held a public hearing and had a survey. So it gathers community input, and then in December, Tiffany and I really took time to analyze all of the housing and market analysis data provided by HUD, which is within the document. We also gather other data from American Community Survey and from our Housing and Homeless Coalition. So it really takes a comprehensive look at our community and allows us to look at prioritizing different community needs. So the draft plan is ready in January for review. So we opened our public comment period. There's a 30-day public comment period, which we're in right now. And it does end tomorrow. So anybody interested in commenting on the plan can speak tonight at the public hearing, or they can submit comments through email or phone call. We'll share our information on the very last slide tonight. Once the review of the draft plan is complete, we will be bringing it back in front of council for approval to submit to HUD. And currently we have the resolution on for next Thursday. Once City Council approves the plan, it will go to HUD for final submission review. So I just wanted to take a few minutes and look at the past 5 years. We can see here the funding amounts for the past 5 years. And as I mentioned, the funding that we receive is on a formula basis. And really the formula that the HUD uses is based on several factors, including community needs, income, population, housing, and our relationship with other metropolitan areas. So we did have an increase in funding in 2021. We received around, $901,000. But over the past 3 years, we've been pretty steady around $855,000 that we've received. On page 5 of the consolidated plan, there is an evaluation of past performance. So every year we do what's called a CAPER report, a consolidated annual performance evaluation report. It really looks at our impact with CDBG funding over the past year. And since we are currently in our 2024 program year, we don't have all of the numbers. So this is just a snapshot of what CDBG funding we've gotten over the past 4 years. So last slide, we've received over the past 5 years a little over $4.3 million. And here you can see we've expended about $4 million. Over the past 4 years, about 50% of our funding has been focused in public facilities and infrastructure. Those are really around park and playground improvements, sidewalk improvements, very expensive projects. We've had about 13% spent in public services. I would like to say the rules and regulations around HUD funding is for public services. We have a cap of 15% of our entitlement funding can be spent on public services, so no more than 15%. Same with administration. We have a 20% cap on administration funding. Okay, now looking forward to the process of this current consolidated plan. I just wanted to quickly hit on the community input process again. We held 2 meetings, one at Booker T. Washington Center and one at Seymour Library, and a public hearing. All of the comments are located within the plan in the appendix. We also had a public survey that was out. We had about 154 responses. Those responses are also within the plan in the appendix. But you'll find in the very beginning, I think it's PR 15, there is a summary of all public comments that were considered during the development of the plan. The survey, we can see here the top 3 priorities that were identified included sewer and water line replacement, neighborhood revitalization, and housing projects. The survey did address a wide range of activities that were all eligible under the Community Development Block Grant funding, and different categories included economic development, public facility and infrastructure projects, neighborhood revitalization, housing programs, and public service programs. The graph above does illustrate the top human service programs that residents believe are most needed in our community. And we can see childcare is number 1, homeless prevention number 2, and then services for the disabled is number 3. The survey at the end also included questions regarding fair housing, because during the development of our 5-year plan, we also do an analysis of impediments to fair housing. So we accept comments and also surveyed the community and met with a number of stakeholders for the development of that plan. There are portions of that plan within our document tonight. However, it will not be, the analysis of impediments to fair housing will not be finalized until the end of March, beginning of April. So not only did we reach out to the community in general, we also met with a number of stakeholders. So the input from city departments and local organizations really help ensure the diverse needs of our community. And so we did meet with city departments such as engineering and Department of Public Works to discuss city facilities and infrastructure, as well as parks and playground needs. Auburn Housing Authority for information and needs regarding public housing. Homesite, Habitat for Humanity, Ithaca Neighborhood Housing Services, and Toma Development concerning housing needs and programs that can be offered in our community. We also met with Cayuga County Health Department and Department of Social Services regarding the needs of low to moderate income families and individuals. Additionally, we met with SBDC, which is Small Business Development Center, and WISE regarding economic development needs. Since there's a lot of data within the plan, we just wanted to kind of highlight a couple of points. And as you go through the plan, there's the needs assessment and the market analysis of housing within our community. These sections will be labeled as NA for needs assessment, MA for market analysis. And these two sections provide clear data-supported understanding of areas such as housing, economic development, homelessness, infrastructure, and public services. Much of the data is provided directly from HUD, but the city also reached out to a number of local agencies for data. Above, we can see an NA10. These are highlights stating 56% of our households are below 80% of area medium income or AMI. 31% of households experience cost burden, and this is the most common housing issue. 49% of renter-occupied housing and 16% of owner-occupied housing experience at least one of the following: lack of complete plumbing facilities, lack of complete kitchen facilities, overcrowding, and that's more than one person per room, and cost burden greater than 30%. So the data in NA10 and MA05 clearly shows that a focus on safe and affordable housing for our residents is a priority. I'd also like to highlight, I missed this, but during our community input, I did just want to state that there are a lot of comments in the surveys, so if you do go through them, there are a lot of good comments. But in particular, there were comments about neighborhood revitalization in the Washington West, Barber, and Wall Street neighborhoods, affordable housing, workforce development, childcare, and transportation. Those seem to be the top priorities for community input during our process. Now I'm going to turn it over to Tiffany, who's going to review what eligible activities are through the Community Development Block Grant Program, and also what is going to be funded over the next 5 years.
Eligible activities for housing can include residential rehab, financial assistance for first-time home buyers, and housing counseling. Residential rehab, it can be for home repair programs for households of low to moderate income, and it can also be used to address accessibility issues such as ramps and stair chairs for individuals that have a disability. From 2020 to 2023, improvements were made to 32 houses in the city of Auburn. Substantial rehabilitation is typically a housing improvement project that include major repairs to the house. In contrast, if the home is unsafe and past the point of repair, demolition may be completed with CDBG funds. You can see some before, during, and then after photo of projects completed in the past. Public infrastructure activities can include construction and repair of streets, sidewalks, curbs, water and sewer line upgrades, and stormwater management systems. From 2020 to 2023, we've replaced sidewalks along North Division, Bradley, Perrine, Case Ave, Bradford, and Chase Streets. This past year during 2024, we were working on Owasco Street. We've also rehabilitated sewer lines on Chase Street, Chapman Ave, Center Street, and Church Street. Eligible activities under public facilities include parks and recreational facilities and street trees. A number of parks have been renovated over the past 5 years, including Bradford Park, Casey Park, Phase 1 of Wall Street Park, and 2 street tree projects utilizing CDBG funds have also been completed. As Renee mentioned, CDBG allows up to 15% of the annual allocation to be expended on public services. Every 2 years, the city releases a request for proposals that is open to all nonprofit human service agencies that are interested in utilizing CDBG funding for a program that benefits households of low to moderate income in the city of Auburn. You can see a handful of agencies funded in the past that include BOCES, Booker T. Washington Center, Child Care Solutions, Rescue Mission, Chapel House, and Aurora of CNY. That's just a handful that we've assisted. Eligible activities for economic development include technical assistance to businesses and also a small business assistance program. Special development and neighborhood revitalization projects are often larger than what the city's CDBG allocation can handle alone, but CDBG can be a very valuable and important partner in these larger projects. An example of a neighborhood revitalization project includes Orchard Street and Westlake Way in the past. CDBG can benefit persons of low to moderate income in one of 2 ways. The first is called an area benefit, and 51% of persons in the service area must be of low to moderate income. One way a service area can be defined and evaluated is by reviewing the census block income data from the American Community Survey. HUD is currently using the 2016 to 2020 ACS data, and all of the blue areas on the map are considered areas of low to moderate income. This is updated from last year. Public facilities and infrastructure is considered an area benefit. The second way CDBG can benefit a person of low to moderate income is by what is called direct benefits. In this case, a person's household size must be at or below HUD's income limits. These income limits are updated annually and are based on the area median income. Direct benefit activities include our housing projects, public services. SP 45 in the Consolidated Action Plan is the goals for over the next 5 years. These are ranked based on priority. As you can see, residential rehab has become a top priority for the city based on the analysis completed during the consolidated planning process. The amount of funding is project based on the allocation amount remaining the same over 5 years. existing resources, including revolving loan funds, and projected program income over the next 5 years. Also considered when developing this budget for priorities is ensuring that projects can be completed in a timely manner to make sure that the city meets the annual grant requirements each year. Priority needs for the 2025 to 2026 annual action plan include a first-time homebuyer program, partnering with Home Headquarters on 232 Seymour Street. This house is almost completed and will be on the market soon for an income-eligible household. A home repair assistance program, the delivery of the home repair assistance program, the home access program, which is a program for working with Arise to offer persons with a disability accessible ramps and stair chairs. The distressed property program, which is for demolitions. The sidewalk replacement program, a sewer line rehabilitation project, public facilities line, which will be the phase 2 of the Wall Street Park, and a partner rehab project with Habitat for Humanity. Public service programming, including funding for 13 different agencies and programs. The Small Business Assistance Program, economic development, including technical assistance for businesses, special development funding, and administration. This list shows proposed amendments to prior year funding of where it was allocated and a request of where we would like to shift it to. Sometimes a project that is proposed in our action plan is unable to move forward. The amendments give the city a chance to reprogram the funding into a different eligible project. I also want to go back to the budget for 1 minute and just mention that this budget has been developed based on the 2024 allocation amount. The 2025 allocation has not been announced. We do not know when that will be announced. If there is an increase in the budget that is less than 20%, we are proposing that it goes into the public facilities line. If there is a decrease less than 20%, we are proposing that it will be cut from public facilities and possibly the sidewalk replacement program. If the change is greater than 20%, either direction, we will be back in front of City Council with the proposed changes to the budget with a 30-day public comment period. If you have any questions on the proposed plan, we are happy to answer them.
Council, any questions for Ms. Beebe or Ms. Jensen? Thank you both for once again, providing a detailed overview. In my opinion, this is one of the most successful federal programs in the country. The results speak for themselves. Probably 90% of the playground improvements we've done come through CDBG funding. If we didn't have that, we would not be able to do these improvements. So things like Habitat for Humanity, providing safe housing for people. It's just, the list goes on and on and on. I know a lot of work goes into it. Thank you both for the work that you do to make sure that it is successful. I know there's strict federal oversight of this, and I know that we continuously meet the mark and exceed that. So thank you for doing that. Thank you. Other business from the council? Hearing none. Mr. Duggar, do we have a request for executive session?
Yes, Mayor. We have one item related to the sale of real property and 2 items made confidential under attorney-client privilege.
Very good. Council, any other items to add? And we have a motion for executive session. Councilor Clarko, seconded by Councilor Cuddy. Please call the roll.
Counselor Kent,
Yes.
Counselor Cuddy,
Yes.
Counselor Clarko,
Aye.
Mayor Giannettino.
Aye, we'll be in recess for executive session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, she's going in there?